All right, in doing uh, any videos about movies and TV shows and things like that, I think it really helps out to get sort of a baseline on. Well, there's a few things that need to be said first. Uh, First of all, nobody get insulted if I don't like what you like. You know, it's just you're not wrong. If you like something, you like it. It's not like you're wrong to like something. You're wrong to dislike something. Uh, a lot of people almost feel personally attacked. What I'm expressing here is my opinions, and it shouldn't have any effect on, you know, if there's something you like, keep liking it, whatever. It doesn't matter. I don't have to understand it. That's part of life. But another thing is to kind of give sort of a baseline of what kinds of things I do like and what I don't like. And that kind of gives an idea. Well, if you see somebody feeling a certain way about certain movies or TV shows or something like that, you kind of really need to get a line on them, get a read on why they feel that way, because it gets kind of disjointed. Since I'm not really like a movie critic or nothing like that, I'm not a big gore fan. Like gore movies, I don't like it. I don't like the things that tend towards being overly like I feel like some movies are a little bit too rough towards women, too rough towards children, or just kind of what some people would refer to as torture porn or something like that. I don't get that sort of thing. I don't understand it. I don't know the purpose for it. So things like Terrifier and like those remakes of Evil Dead. Um, I it's not my thing. Devil's Rejects and stuff like that. I can't stand it. I don't like it at all. Um, I like a lot of classic stuff, but I'm not a home run on that stuff. There's a lot of that I think is kind of overrated, and I'll say it. Uh, I think there are people out there that if something is put down as classic, that they just go along with it. And I don't do that. There's a lot of things like it's one of them I watched. I think it's the Maltese Falcon, Rosemary's Baby, which I watched them again. I thought they were lame. I didn't care, I didn't care for them at all. It was like, this is classics. See, I'm not a home run with that. And it's just like with music. A lot of people say there's not any good music anymore. Yes, there is. It's just not getting as mainstreamed. There's plenty of good music. And so, even when I'm talking about music, I don't think you can really fairly say that I only like old music, because a lot of old music I don't like. A lot of that I think is overrated. But, back to movies. To me, it sort of needs to have an appeal to it and a good feel. To me, you need to be able to walk away from it without feeling traumatized. All right, you take like the Walking Dead, for example. It brought a lot of great ideas to the table. It really did. There was shades of gray. Good people would turn bad. Bad people would turn good. Bad people would occasionally do some good things or had some morals. And good people would slip. And it had so many shades of gray to it. I thought that was really good. It did a lot of stupid things also. And it, to me, almost came off as, it almost came off as sort of racist and sexist and everything else. Every other ist you could come up with, and which is strange if you go by what the people behind it seemed to believe. But it really seemed to do that. But also, they're too heavy-handed. At the time, sort of running along with Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead, there was something called Z Nation. And I thought it was goofy as all get out to begin with. And then a little time went on, and I was like, oh, okay, I got it. Now I understand. Because you could watch Z Nation without needing therapy afterwards. I mean, they knew they were being so heavy-handed with Walking Dead that they had Talking Dead afterwards to sort of give people an almost mock therapy afterwards. That's not how you're supposed to feel after watching something. I think people have forgotten that. And, the main purpose of this particular video is to sort of give my baselines, but also, there's a lot of things that are super popular that I don't really like. I'm not a big fan of Martin Scorsese. I think the movies are just, I don't particularly care for them. I could say that they're fairly well made. I could give it that. Don't like them. I don't care for Casino. I don't care for Goodfellas. It's just how are you supposed to feel after watching that? You know, it's just everybody is awful and terrible and everything is bad. And I don't know, maybe it has to do with my mood. Another person I think is extremely overrated but does bring a few interesting things to the table, Quentin Tarantino. Quentin is a weird and rotten human being in real life. And just excruciatingly awful in just about every way you can think about it. He does bring some interesting things to the table in that he has his characters having these kind of unique conversations, which is an interesting idea. But he's extremely overrated. You take one of his most popular works, is Pulp Fiction. Nothing is happening on that. You think it is, because they shuffle it around. If you line up all those stories up from beginning to end, nothing's really happening. There was one the other day. I mean, I hated those Kill Bill movies. I thought they were just excruciating. A lot of people like them. What was it? And I could tell he wrote it because it was just dumb. Just something happened, and then it went a little bit, and then it ended. There's no color to the plot line at all. I'm going to have to look it up now. I should have had it prepared for this. I probably got rid of the tab. To me, his stuff is just extremely overrated. And as I said, you can always tell when he wrote it because it's very juvenile. He's 63 years old. And he has the brain of a fairly intelligent child. Let's see here. Film, here we go. Now, Reservoir Dogs, he wrote that, and it had some moments to it. Even though I think Pulp Fiction is extremely overrated, it was okay, you know. Jackie Brown, that was okay. Kill Bill, ridiculous. Death Proof, excruciatingly awful. Hateful Eight, just crass and just awful. And again, these are just my opinions. If you like them, that's fine. I don't understand that. And he gets everything he puts out. It's just like people trip over themselves to go see it. And I don't understand that. I like things to have a little bit of, like I've even seen sitcoms, TV shows, where there's nooks and crannies and curves and something's going on, and it's got sort of a poetry to it. There's no poetry to his stuff. Here's these people here, and they're bad people, and they're going to say some weird things, and a bunch of people are going to die at the end. That's it. I don't know how Kurt Russell seems like a smart guy and seems like a nice guy. I don't know why he's doing everything Quentin Tarantino wants him to do. But Rob Zombie, that's another one that's just, in my opinion, just... Whew. I don't know how anybody ever watches anything he does. It's just... He seems to want to take things that mean something to someone and then just... Trying to think of a clean way of saying this. Throw up on them. Take it and just drag it along the road until there's nothing left of it. That's what he seems to want to do. Even did that Munsters thing. But that's just kind of the way I look at things. I mean, I think that stuff is just trashy and overly violent and, gratuitous. There's a lot of classic stuff I like. Can I give a good example? Sort of a counterpoint. I didn't prepare this well enough. Been still having tooth pain, and I've been not getting enough sleep, so this is going to be a little disjointed. But I like a lot of the Universal old horror movies and the old Hammer movies, horror movies. Just something that doesn't make you feel like you need therapy after it ends. I mean, I don't understand. And even if it's a bad movie, if you can laugh at it and have fun, as soon as it ends, you feel happy, that's a success. It might not have landed the way the movie makers want it to, but you watch this stuff to feel happy. I think that's kind of the point. You know, even if you watch a sad movie, or if you listen to some sad music, in a weird way, it makes you feel good. You don't, I mean, people say, you watch that to feel bad. No, not really. Not really. You know, it's the same way like I interest myself in conspiracy theories, and it's not because I believe every one of them. I consider it to be sort of a mental yoga. You know, you sort of stretch your mind a little bit. It gets a little boring if you kind of just watch humdrum things and just believe whatever you're told and this and that. I like things to be a little surprising. I like to sort of just have interesting thoughts. And to me, my taste in movies and TV shows, a lot of people say that that's the opposite. I disagree. I think you're looking at it wrong. The newer ones are a lot more predictable. They're a lot more, there's less adventure to them. They even look at the same kind of movies. What's better, the old Indiana Jones movies or the new ones? Take all the time you like. How about Star Wars? What's better, the older ones or the newer ones? There you go. So, to me, and I like to get low budget movies and things like that. I like to see what people. I don't criticize people too heavy about special effects. That's another thing. I definitely need to mention that. I don't penalize people too much about special effects because it does take some skill, but the more money you have, less skill you got to have. You got some people want to make a movie and they do the best they can. That's fine. It's fine. I'm not going to penalize people too heavy on that. It's like a good example of that. Look at Ed Wood. Ed Wood's special effects. That's not the problem. It's like when that one guy was getting up in this little mock graveyard and he kicked the gravestone over. You yell cut and you fix it. That's the problem. It's the lack of effort. It's not the lack of materials. I'm not going to penalize you if you're poor and you're trying to make a movie. You only got so much money or even so much know-how. It's that somebody's not trying or they're not paying attention. Or, you know, like some of these things I just mentioned, like they're trying to, it's like they have contempt for their audience. That's what I see with a lot of newer things. It's like contempt for the audience. It's like, do you hate the people that's watching this? Is that what's going on? I will say a lot of the newer superhero movies, I'm completely fine with them. I'm not too judgmental on them. I would have thought myself that I would have been, but I've watched a few of them, the Wolverine and Deadpool. The Spider-Man movies look decent. The Venom movies look decent. X-Men movies, all of them look at least decent. I don't always agree with the casting, but they look like decent movies. I'm not that hard to please, at least as movies go. It's harder to really like impress me, but I'm not hard to please as far as I can watch something and be okay with it. That's how I am with most things. As a matter of fact, most things a lot of people would refer to as bad movies. Most of the time I'm okay with it. A lot of the movies at Mystery Science Theater, and I don't know about Riff Tracks because they're digging a little deeper, but Mystery Science Theater did quite a few of them I thought was okay. You know, Time Chasers, Boggy Creek 2. I even thought that Hamlet movie was decent. It was a little dreary, but I thought it was decent. Screaming Skull, I thought was decent. Quite a few of them. It's not to say they didn't have their flaws, but as I'm sure they can tell you, it's easier to make fun of a movie that's got a little bit of decency to it than it is for one that's just complete slop. I mean, there's some of them you can't even say anything about. But that's just a rough idea, you know. And with TV shows and things like that, couldn't stand Friends. Thought it was terrible. A lot of the sitcoms. I hate soap operas. Can't stand them. The little drama series and things like that, don't care for them. A lot of the crime shows had their moments, but I thought they were a little ridiculous. CSI and Law and Order, they didn't start out that way, but Law and Order, a lot of them held on for a little bit being decent. But all of those ended up, to me, they kind of read like the soap operas did. That's always would confuse me, how people would have, they sort of play teams with soap operas. Like, this is the one, I watch this one, I don't watch that one. I hate to tell you this. A lot of them are written by the same people. That's why they got reoccurring names. And that happens with the, the CSI and Law and Order and all that stuff. These people interchange writers and directors and things like that. So they end up being sort of the same thing. But that's just a rough idea of kind of my baseline, how I feel about certain movies and TV shows and things like that. Kind of gives you a basis for how I judge things. I like it. I prefer, here's another thing too. I'll throw this out right here at the end. I'm not a prude. But I like for like sexuality, sex scenes and things like that to be kept out of movies. It's just weird. And the older I get, the weirder it gets. It's strange. And a lot of times it's completely unpredictable. Like a good example, that movie Sinners. Thought it was a pretty good movie. Got a little rough there in a few places. And I didn't know it was going to. I was watching it with my mother. So, a little awkward. And it just didn't have to do that. It didn't have to. You can leave that stuff out. And I'll tell you how I know that they can leave that stuff out. Because life. You go out and live your life, there's not people having sex scenes all over town. It's not happening. There's people doing that, but you're not seeing it. So you don't have to necessarily see it. It doesn't have to be put out there. It's so weird. And if you break it down, them filming that stuff, it just gets even weirder. If, it's 2026. If you want to find that, you can get it, I assure you. I'm not going to play innocent on that. But you don't need it in your normal movies. You don't need it in your Friday the 13th and your Sinners and your Halloweens and this and that. You don't need it. Keep it out of there. You might as well just go ahead and use the other ratings, if you know what I mean, if you're going to do something like that. Just stop bluffing with it. But that's another thing with me. I don't like gore. I'd rather that stuff be kept out of there. Use realistic language. I know people are going to exaggerate this. Like I need to watch something like Mr. Rogers or something like that. It doesn't have to be that at all. I assure you, I got some stuff here on the shelves that definitely don't match that. But that's just my preferences. Keep it as clean as you can so everybody can watch it. And that's not to say it can have an R rating for sure. Just don't act like you're trying to push towards another rating beyond R. It just doesn't make any sense. But anyway, that's sort of my standards and how I judge movies. And again, don't get offended. It's just my opinion.